My name is Jeff. Right now I'm a captain in the United States Army. 10 years ago, I was in your shoes, right? So 10 years ago, I just graduated high school. So really 11 years ago, I was in your shoes. But the last 10 years has been an incredible journey of God fulfilling His word through my life. So I graduated high school, then I went to West Point, the United States Military Academy, and I was there for 4 years. Then 6 years ago, I graduated from West Point, and I've been in the Army ever since. I'm an infantry officer. So if you guys don't know, if you guys played Call of Duty, what's the game these days? Is it Battlefield? What is it? Fortnite? Man. So yeah, I mean that's essentially kind of what I joined the Army to do. Sometimes that's about 50% of it. In 2008, 10 years ago, where was I at? I grew up as a PK in the Tarafam Church for most of my childhood. And so, just like you guys, I was a remnant from a very young age. So I listened to a lot of the messages. So as I began to go off to college, where was I? I had a lot of knowledge of the gospel. I could, recite the way of salvation. I could do everything. I could say everything, right? I was part of the praise team. Went to church every weekend. But as I was going off into college, I was coming out of the spiritual umbrella, the shelter, right? I was unaware of my own scars. I had ignorance and apathy of my own sin. I was chasing idols, right? And so what does that mean? I was unaware of my personal need for Jesus Christ, right? Everyone knows who Christ is, right? 3 offices. But at that point in my life, I didn't know why I needed Christ. And that was really it was the biggest thing, kind of turning point that God wanted to take me through during my college years. So that's what He had me do. I was asked a question my sophomore year in college. My roommate asked me, it was on Easter Sunday, he was being very sarcastic, and he was like, why did Jesus, this guy, so dramatically have to die and then rise again? Why couldn't he just, be more quiet about it or something like that? And it's like, all right, it's my chance to shine as a remnant. Everything that I trained for, I'm going to share the gospel with him. And I was like, wait, why did Jesus have to die and rise again? Why did he have to rise? And so for me, that became a point, where I was by myself spiritually, and I'd ask myself, is this something that I truly believe? And if I don't, I need to stop living a lie and just walk away. Why waste my time? So luckily, by the grace of God, He showed me myself, right? My Genesis chapter 3 self. And he said, I sent Jesus Christ to you to restore Genesis chapter 1, who you were originally created to be. So anyway, that was my story through college. And as I began to got ready to graduate from college, I spent a lot of time talking to Pastor Brendan, getting some advice, kind of freaking out. At 22 years old, they're saying, hey, you're going to be in charge of 40 soldiers and you're going to go into Afghanistan. Whoa. So imagine 5 years from now, that's going to be, that's you. So a lot of responsibility. So God, at that point in my life, after showing me why I personally needed Christ, said, I'm going to entrust soldiers physically, their lives into your hands, but more importantly, spiritually. And so that became kind of my burden, my commission that God gave me. And so I want to read this verse. This is, does anyone recognize this verse?
Yes.
What is it?
Isn't God talking to Abraham?
Yeah. Do you know what the actual verse is?
No.
Oh, man. If anyone can guess, get free candy. I don't have it right now. I owe you. Close. It's actually Genesis chapter 12. Just like you said, it's when Abraham is getting first sent off by God, right? It says, I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you. I'll make your name great. You'll be a blessing. I'll bless those who bless you. If anyone curses you, I will curse. And all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. All right, what's he really saying? He's saying, I'm going to send Christ through your family line, right? But before that, he says, go, right? He says, leave your father's household. Leave everything behind and just go to the land I will show you. Right? That's kind of where I was. I didn't know where I was going, right? The church commissioned me, like, oh, you're going to be a military missionary. I'm like, yeah. what does that mean, right? But that's the blessing of being a remnant and a child of God, is that God gives you the answers before you even know how to get there, right? And then He leads you to it. So that's kind of what I went through. Next slide, please. So I just went. So my covenant during my college years that I really began to hold on to was that Jesus is the Christ. He's my Christ. He's the Son of the living God and the solution to all problems, that He is the only way. And right, what is God's heart and desire? It's to save souls, to make disciples of all nations, for us to be His witnesses. We just live that out in the field. Next. The vision that He began to give me in college was, to save the churches of America. Pastor Brendan knows. I said, man, Pastor, I just want to go back to church. I just want to be part of everybody. But what was God's plan for my life? It was the last 10 years I've been on my own. No system, no local church to support me. And so God was saying, I'm preparing you, right, to go deeper into the spiritual summit, so that in the future, when the time comes, the church, you guys, my heart breaks for you guys. I want to be with you. Right? And he's preparing me for that, right? To restore the true and complete gospel. And then also, as a military leader, to block disasters and crises as a leader, right? In the military field. Next. So just some pictures, you can't really see it. There's some cool stuff we get to do. We blow things up, get to, get in full armor and, pull guard in Afghanistan. But we also get to, give candy and stuff to the kids in Afghanistan. So that was a pretty cool part of my life. I went in a couple years ago to Afghanistan, and I was like, I'm going to evangelize to all my soldiers, right? Like a good remnant would do. I evangelized to 0 of my soldiers. But it was a time in my life along my covenant journey where God was imprinting that covenant into me and realizing and going deeper into a personal relationship with God, right? Those desperate pleas of David and all through the book of Psalms, saying, God, I need you, right? And restoring my personal relationship with Him. Next. I went again to Afghanistan in 2016. Again, we got to blow stuff up and do fun stuff. This is a picture of us making bombs, actually. It's pretty cool. But what's really cool is that the second time I went, learning from my past weaknesses and failures, the same place we were making bombs, that's where I held tarakbang with my soldiers every week, right? So clean that up, and then I'd bring out my Bible. I had the gospel letters with me, and so kind of tailored to. There's only a couple, like 12 of us out there, and I was in charge of them, and so I was able to share the gospel with them. And one of my soldiers, this guy right here, he accepted Christ, and so that was a huge moment for me, being able to see that fruit in my life. But next slide. Coming back from that deployment, I was tired, right? Even though God sent me as a military missionary, I said, God, I can't do this anymore. I'm physically tired. There's no one here to support me and help me, right? I just want to go back home, be with my family, serve the church, and go back to school and maybe go into the political field or something like that. 2 years ago at RCA, Pastor Yu was the first time that he gave a message about, the place that no one else can go, the work that no one else can do, and the gospel that no one else can teach. And so that's when that word really came down into my heart. And God said, "Until now, I've pulled you along by grace, right? But now this is your commission. You have to fully own it." And so, God was telling me, stop looking to the future. Stop trying to calculate. Yes, I've given you this dream and this vision, but stop trying to get there by your own, right? He was saying, look at the work I've entrusted to you right now. The people in your life, for you guys, maybe the studies, the friends that you have in your life. Focus on that, right? What's God's heart? It's for the gospel, for evangelism, for missions, right? For raising disciples of all nations. So that's what he told me. He says, the least of you become 1,000, the weakest a mighty nation. I am the Lord, and it's time I will do it swiftly, right? I am the Lord. Right? I can make the greatest thing out of nothing. I am the Lord, and in its time, I can do it swiftly. So he said, just stop worrying about the future, focus on today. And so that's when I really held on to my commission 2 years ago. Ever since then, next slide, please. God started giving me this dream based on the covenant, right? That I could be a lay leader with true field answers in the military field. This isn't to bash on the adults. I appreciate the heart of the adults who've relayed this covenant to us. But how many times have you guys been discouraged at church as you see kind of the fighting, the pettiness, the cultural differences, right? None of that really matters, though, right? But God is preparing an age where we, all of us in this room, will rise together as a remnant. Not only just, hey, I'm an elder and I give a lot of offering, but people with, or I've been at this church longer than you, therefore I have not that kind of lay leader, but a lay leader with true answers in the field, right? Who can say, God used me in this way in my field, and people were saved and disciples were raised. That's my dream, right? And to be able to lead remnants, to raise remnants, and then be together with you guys, and also to serve the pastors who are sitting in the front row here, to be able to support them and go together with them as well. And then also to be a military and political leader like David. Next. So holding on to that new sense of commission, I spent a year in Korea along the DMZ, looking at North Korean soldiers every day. It was pretty cool. Anyone hear about the North Korean defector that ran across and got shot up? Yeah, so I was there when that happened. I called the medevac bird, and the bird came in. Anyway, that was cool. But God placed me in that position to pray. The next slide. So yeah, this is a North Korean dude. Okay. Oh, you missed it. Oh, yeah. Anyway, next. Next. But the greatest part, as I got to meet other people and do, interviews and whatnot, was that was the first time in my military career that, first of all, God prepared meetings at that place with another remnant. This is Daniel. And as soon as we got there, we began doing the word movement at that place every single week. Even Pastor Sam came up, we invited him up. But it was the first time that I was able to go fully in to the work that God had entrusted to me without, worrying about the future, right? Because that just takes up your time. You can't focus on what God really had, the blessings that He has in front of you right now. So I was very thankful for that. Next. And then the image, as God brought me through that year, He said, the image that I started drawing in my head was that I can be a lay leader who runs a mission home to bring about healing and summit missions through worship and discipleship. And then 318, so that's Abraham's 318 dudes that, they were his dudes, right? Anytime he needed anything to rescue his nephew Lot, he can call him up and they would go and rescue him. That's the team of remnants that no matter what can devote themselves to the cause of for God's kingdom, to raise remnants and to save the field. So that's my prayer. Next. Now, how do I put that into practice? When you're alone, and Pastor G says all the time, your loneliness is the greatest time to be able to enjoy the fact that God is with you, right, Emmanuel. And so I really began to experience that over the last 10 years, staying within the flow of the Word, right? I drive about 25 minutes to work every day and come back. I listen to the prayer journal message on the way because, otherwise I'm going to be falling asleep at 5 in the morning and maybe crashed off the side of the road and something like that. So anyway, staying inside the flow of the Word. And then, so as I've come to this new post where I'm at right now, been able to, God put into my heart that image of my home being a place of worship, that it would be a place that worship could change the culture of that area. God has allowed that to come into practice for my life, as I have about 10 or 12 people at my base right now. We gather together every Friday night and just worship and praise, and able to share the gospel in that way as well. And then the field ministry, the tarakbangs, evangelism, that's all great, but when you're able to invest into a disciple, one person, and share the gospel with him, it's the greatest feeling, and it's the greatest feeling of enjoyment and satisfaction. I have a friend who's here with me. Met him a couple months ago, and I shared the gospel with him. He's from Ethiopia, and he's a soldier in the U.S. Army. But he's here at RCA with me right now, and God has allowed me to meet him, and I know that God has a plan for him to go back and save Ethiopia in the future. And he's about 22 years old right now, so it's preparation for him. But that's how God fulfills His word. Next. All right, so before I finish up, I'm sure I'm way over 5 minutes right now. Just a couple points I wanted to share with you before I finish up. Number one is remain in the message. Right? There's nothing that you have to do. Remain inside the message, and God fulfills that word in your life. You guys might think you're not equipped, but you are. Right? God has already given you the message, and He continues to give it to you through this conference and through your church. And so God fulfills that word. Maybe you're probably not there right now, but God one day will give you your sense of commission, right? What your mission is, what you have to devote to, and when that time comes, grab hold of it and never look back. Paul says, I press on to take hold of that for which Christ Jesus took hold of me, right? We don't discover anything. Christ takes hold of us. He gives us the vision. He plants that seed in that heart, His heart inside of our hearts. And so we just press forward trying to take hold of that, because that's what He's called us to. He will call us to. And then lastly, I just want to remind you guys that no matter what, you guys are precious children of God. Your original self is not Genesis chapter 3. Genesis chapter 3 is your broken self, right, that you might be struggling through right now. Genesis chapter 1 is what you were originally made to be. So live in that identity as children of God. You are an evangelist, a disciple, and a witness that God will use in the field. Last thing, CVDIP, right? It seems kind of burdensome and overwhelming. I know Assistant Pastor Sam hit on that. Guys, it's not like a formula for success that somehow you have to unlock some secret. Live your life enjoying the gospel, and God will show you retroactively that that's what God has done in your life, right? It's not something that you somehow have to unlock. When I heard the message this summer about CVDIP, what I said was, wow, that's exactly how God has worked in my life. So it's not a burden, it's enjoying. Oh wow, 20 minutes. Boom, 20 minutes. Thank you guys. My email is right here. If you guys want to reach out to me, I have to take off right now, but please, if you see me in the hallways, say hi, ask questions.